Well, I guess I'm gonna hit like, but I'm gonna give it a thumbs up. But
we're gonna give it a like, but nobody on Twitter is gonna see it. So, what's up, everybody? Nicholas Downey from the Gaming Perspective podcast. Welcome to episode 33. Because I decided to give this episode a number this time, so we are absent of Jared this week. He is on the Shop podcast. There will be a link to that podcast tomorrow. On my Twitter,
Rebel Alliance and a traitor. He's been taken away.
So you can check out Jared on the Shop podcast. I will share that link out tomorrow morning because I do not cross promote on my podcast day, because I'm a selfish man. So I'll introduce my two co-hosts for today. As always, Mr. Samuel Tolbert.
Hey guys, how's it been? It has been way too long. I hope everyone is doing well. Let's talk.
And Mr. Eric Jackson from the Basement Radio Arcade.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be back. Missed you guys.
I missed you too.
It's only been a week.
I know, right?
It feels like a lot more than a week, guys. I look forward to this. I look forward to de-stressing with y'all, honestly.
This is... Yeah, I never noticed it because I had to miss last week because of some personal issues. And... I enjoyed my weekend. I loved my weekend. It was great. I got to spend time with my wife and everything else and just kind of ground myself out. And I really miss doing this podcast. And I'm really happy I get to do this podcast with you guys every week because it's one time I get to talk about games. It's just games and there's no back and forth over everything except for Jared's horrible taste in BioWare games. So there's been a lot of games that have come out in the past little while, but instead of talking about what we've been playing, I kind of want to talk about Resident Evil 2 because all of us have played it. Eric, have you beaten it already? Well, you beat the original when it first came out.
Yes.
Yes. Have you beat a playthrough of the remake yet?
Full disclosure, I have not even started it.
Okay. Full disclosure. Shame on you.
No. I am playing greatness, and it has its hooks in me.
What are you playing right now, Eric?
What are you playing?
Bloodborne.
Okay, fair.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
You played the get out of jail free card.
Yeah, you got. Believe me, it's okay. Here's the thing. It's hurting me not to play Resident Evil 2, right? But I can't stop playing Bloodborne. Like every time I sit down, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start Resident Evil 2, but I'm like, but I really want to do this. I really want to get back to this area.
Yeah, I hear you. You found salvation for Witcher 3. Now you have found salvation in Bloodborne.
Right, and as we've talked about, like in our DM, Sam, it's like I've been on this journey of the backlog. I said there's great games I have in my backlog that have not been played, and I have to rectify that, right? Mm-hmm. Because I would always walk away from them or get away from them because something else would come out. And that's the thing. Something's always going to come out. But I have all these great games that are sitting there too that I really want to get back to playing. And I've really been kind of dedicating when I do jump in, staying in that game and finishing. Right?
Absolutely.
And I think what's going to end up happening, I'm going to catch up and then I'll be able, when all these new games just keep hitting, then I feel I'll just keep going forward. Now I am going to jump in Resident Evil 2. Right. I'm going to take that break. That'll be next up, and then I'll get back to the backlog. I'm not going to start another backlog game until I play Resident Evil 2. Yeah. But that's been the journey since 2018. It's been great, actually.
And then that's good, dude. I remember talking with you. Like that's refreshing. Someone burning through their backlog like that. I imagine it's a good feeling, a very good feeling. Yeah, wow, I missed this. I'm enjoying this now. Or wow, yeah, this was great. And catching up all of that stuff. And what works great is when you do hit Resident Evil 2, it's not a very long game.
And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Playthroughs. That's not difficult.
And I think after something like Bloodborne, that's going to be something good to go into. Something that's not going to tax me too much until I get next. Because every game now we talk about this. Every game now is like 100+ hours.
Right. It really makes you appreciate the ones that aren't.
Exactly. Really I want more RE2s. I want more, and it's like, hey, devs, it's okay. You can do a game like RE2 $60 as long as it has that replay value. And that's what those older games were about. It's like they weren't long, but they gave you multiple ways to continue going back to them. And that's where the value came into play. Now it's like value. Like so many gamers think value is only in multiplayer, or value is only in a game that eats up like months of your life.
And they do. To be fair, here they do have value there, but other things as well. And yeah, it's a matter of quality. That's another discussion / debate altogether. But
right,
it'll be good.
Nick, but I can't talk to you guys about RE2. You know,
that's fine. Like we'll talk to you about it then. Yeah. That'll work out.
Actually, I'm sorry. I'm just looking at flights to fly Eric out to beat Bloodborne for me.
I mean, why? Sam had it right. Like the minute you play it, you're gonna be hitting us up in like 3 days. Like, yeah, you know, I just
No, I actually started I actually started Bloodborne, and it didn't grab me. And I think what's going to be the make or break for me with Bloodborne is I'm going to play Sekiro. And if I really enjoy Sekiro, I think I will, because I've got this like obtuse fear of playing overly difficult games because I have a very short temper. As my wife knows from the strings of profanity I had with Resident Evil 2 Remake through specific parts of that game. I will say endlessly, the lab was bullshit. There was too much shit going on, and that last puzzle with the freaking herbicide zombies and shit, that was annoying. I was angry. But I need to like break through that because like I've sat down, I've beat some really hard games this year. Like 2 of the first games I beat out the gate this year was Celeste and Cuphead. Like those aren't easy games. So I need to start expanding more and maybe letting myself get angry at these games to enjoy them, because as frustrating as it was for me, because I didn't play a lot of survival horror back in the game, and games stress me out really easily. It's really easy for me to get stressed out, and man, was I stressed out with Resident Evil 2 because I was like, I don't have any ammo. This thing's running at me. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. And my first playthrough, I kind of like, well, my first 2 hours of the game, I kind of like engaged as many zombies as I could and did all these things. I was like, this isn't how this goes. I just need to run. I just need to I just need to solve these puzzles and run.
Survival horror.
And there are many times where you do not have the ammo, even on standard, to deal with these zombies, and you have to make the choice of running or fighting.
See, that's what I laugh when I see these tweets of people like some of the newer games. They're like, I don't have enough ammo to like mow them down. Like that's not the point.
That's the idea.
That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be moving.
It currently in my save file on Leon's playthrough A, there's a hallway with 3 liquors in it that I avoided through the whole game, and they just kind of all congregated in one hallway, which I was fine with because I was like, oh, I can just work my way around it. And then there was one part just before I left the police station where I needed to go down that hallway.
See, what was great about those games, and it's just, I remember this actually too with Doom 3 on Xbox. It was like, I ain't going down that hall.
Yeah, nope.
You look at that hall with that little the breaker box sparking, and the one red light off in the distance, and nothing else but shade and dark. He's like, nah.
Yeah, it's like, well, I've got no shotgun shells. Yeah. Okay, and 1 assault rifle clip. You hear this roar. Well, guess I'll die.
It's so funny because there's
nothing good down that hall.
There's an achievement I didn't get on my first playthrough, and 63% of people got this achievement for shooting the hat off of Mr. X. Nice. And I was so utterly terrified when he came barreling down the hall at me. I never thought to shoot. Yep. I just ran. I was just absolutely terrified.
The Mr. X memes are giving me life. I love it. I absolutely love it.
If they ever remake 3, just wait for Nemesis.
Dude, right. So, Eric, you know, like Mr. X, wasn't he originally scripted? Like he wasn't a permanent chasing thing. Like he only showed up at particular parts in the original Resident Evil 2?
That I'm not 100% sure about.
No, he was still free roaming, but he was very slow and very dumb. If I remember the AI was very sluggish. Was a complaint is that he wasn't really a threat, and that's why Nemesis in Resident Evil 3 was such a step up. Was because Nemesis, I think with Mr. X in the original, I don't think he could go through doorways. He would.
No, Nemesis. Right. Yeah. Like they've stepped his AI up. He's more like Nemesis in this game. From what I'm picking up on than he was with the original Mr. X. I mean, you saw what the original Mr. X looked like.
Right. So Eric, like Resident Evil 3, if people are having issues with Mr. X now, and I'm not blaming them for doing so, I had some issues too. Imagine what upgraded Nemesis is going to be. That's going to be crap your pants terrifying.
Exactly. But this is, I mean, it's giving me life, like listening to you guys, you know, who never played in '98, you know, Resident Evil 2, because ultimately this is the same DNA. It's definitely upgraded. It's definitely changed, you know, for a newer audience, which is, it's great for newer audiences, but it's also good for people who've already played it, because a lot of us who played it don't remember all of it.
Sure.
You know, because it's been so long in a lot of cases, unless you went back and, you know, intentionally played it over and over again. It's been many years. Like, I don't remember every story beat, which is awesome. That's what I'm looking forward to. But hearing you guys like be amped about it is awesome. I have to say that.
And I won't give anything in particular away, Eric, or for anyone in chat who hasn't played it yet. And if you haven't, why aren't you playing it right now? Go do it. But I'll say this. You not remembering every story beat is a good thing, because certain things have been shifted around.
Right.
Certain things may still happen, but they might not happen in the same place or quite the same way that you remember them. From my knowledge of the original game, and I love it. Like, this is, if anyone hasn't read my review, I can drop a link if you want. I have my review out. It is a phenomenal game. It's a Game of the Year contender already. It's everything I hoped it could be and more. And Nick, the audio design. Tell me the audio design in this game isn't second to none. What you can hear is things stomping around.
You were talking about things that changed, and there was a moment. And I realized this is from the first Resident Evil. I was in the police station, and I'm walking around this corner. There's a bunch of windows, and I hear dogs barking, and I'm like, "Oh my god, are they going to interject the dog jumping through the window from Resident Evil 1 into this game? Are they going to copy and paste one of the biggest classic jump scares into this game?" Walked by that window again, heard barking, looked out the window, nothing. Just absolutely scared crap out of me for the longest amount of time, because I did not trust that series of windows. Did anything ever happen in that hallway? Nope. But damn, did I ever get the shakes. And yeah, Mr. X's foot stomps, especially when you're navigating floors, hearing him above you, or if you're in the center foyer where you can see multiple levels, just absolutely terrifying. I'm going to reference one part of the game before we move on. Sam's going to know, when you're in the jail cells and you let the zombies in, you realize there's a second path, and you're like, oh my god, I can duck all these zombies. And you go down the hallway, and Mr. X is literally taking up the whole hallway.
Yes.
Like, can I go back? You look back, and there's like 15 zombies behind you, and you're like, oh, nugget.
Yeah, because one thing, you guys played Resident Evil 7, right?
No.
Okay, well, Eric, you did, so you'll get this reference, all right? You know Jack Baker and how he stalks you through Baker Mansion. All right, here's the issue. You remember the design of Baker Mansion. It loops in on itself. You have escape routes. You can duck through here, or dive under this table, or go through that door.
Right.
This police station, if Mr. X catches you in a hall, you better run the other way and pray there's nothing in between you and a door, because it's a problem. You can't get past him. And, I love it. I could talk about this game for hours and hours and be perfectly happy doing so. Please go support it. Please buy it. It seems to be getting a lot of support. I remember Capcom's report that I read up said that they've shipped 3 million copies in the first week. The Steam numbers compared to Resident Evil 7 are like ridiculous. Like, it's selling way better on PC than that one did. So it's doing well. Please go make sure it continues to do well. I want more stuff like this.
Let me ask you guys, how does the because I know the new mechanic that they added to it was having like the wood planks.
Yes. Okay, so
that wasn't in the original.
Right. And I heard that from some people. So the wood planks basically are an item that you can collect. And a new thing in this, Eric, is that there are now zombies wandering around outside. I don't think it's a set number. I think it depends on difficulty. And sometimes, maybe it's the first time you pass a window, maybe it's the 30th time you pass a window 3 hours later, they will start banging on the window, trying to get in. Right. And they will break their way in, and then you'll have an additional zombie to deal with. If you use a board to board up a window, they can't get in. Doesn't matter if they shatter the glass; they cannot get in.
Okay.
That window is permanently sealed for the rest of the game. However, and here's the trick, right? There's not enough boards for all the windows.
Right. So they slipped in a bit of tower defense.
Yep. Yeah, just a bit, just a taste of tower defense on top, and the fact that you have to question yourself, okay, is it worth me taking up part of my inventory with these boards?
Right.
Do I really want to go do this?
I'm going to offer a tip for some people. The dark room, which is one of the save points in the Raccoon Police Department, board up those windows, because once you start having to deal with Mr. X running around, it's really easy to get cornered in that safe room if you have zombies coming in through the windows. I ended up getting cornered. I had a liquor, 3 zombies, and Mr. X outside that door. And I was sitting there with my 1 shotgun shell and 2 pistol rounds going, well, this is going to be interesting. What ended up happening is the zombies aren't actually immune to Mr. X. He can actually hit them. So what ended up happening is I dodged into him. So he swung, missed me, hit the liquor, and I managed to actually escape. But nice. Yeah, there's some really intense moments. And one of my favorite moments in Resident Evil 2, without any spoilers, because the 2 boss fights near the end are just fantastic, is having a liquor jump you and shoving a frag grenade in its mouth, and then turning around and then watching the liquor explode and just being like, thank God.
But I'll tell you this, man. I'll tell you something that's more satisfying. Tell me this isn't just a pure wave of relief when you only have a couple of shotgun shells or magnum rounds left and every zombie head pops apart. Tell me that's not the most satisfying thing in the world.
Yeah, no, it's great. And what really pointed out to me, and kind of in conclusion about Resident Evil 2, what Resident Evil 2 Remake really made me think about is how subtle game design used to be. There was no point in Resident Evil 2 where I felt like a badass. I always felt like I was just hanging on by the inch of my life to get through, especially when it came to the final boss fight. I was counting bullets.
Yeah,
in those final boss fights.
And I think by the time you got to 4, you started feeling more like, like in Leon's case, you felt more like a badass. You've been seasoned, and he had a little more like oomph to him, right?
Yeah, like
rescue the president's daughter.
Yeah,
right.
Like 4, you felt kind of like a badass, and then 5 just felt like a shooter.
And we don't talk about 6 at all.
What still makes me sad is that Resident Evil 6 is still the best-selling Resident Evil game of all time.
Not for long.
It was a dupe.
Yep. Yeah.
But exactly. but I want to kind of highlight, and go back to 98, version for a minute,
sure.
Because I don't want it to be lost in the fact that, people don't. Some guys will remember. You guys obviously didn't play that, but what Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2 were doing at the time, it wasn't being done. Like, we play games now that kind of give you the jump scares, that give you the fear, and you're just like, ugh, that's that feeling of like being unsettled. And in a lot of cases, Souls and Bloodborne can do those things to you also,
right.
The adrenaline pump, right? But using, back then, using a load screen by having the door open, like you go to a door, the load screen was the door creaking, but on the other side, audio-wise, you heard, you're like, oh my God.
Again?
You heard thumps. Or, hey, you may go to one, open it, thinking it's just going to open in the darkness, you can go to the next room, and guess what? Zombies come through it. You're like, what? Stuff like that.
Exactly.
Inventory management, like you could, in Resident Evil 2, you have inventory, you find certain things, but you say, you know what? No, I'm going to leave that one there for Claire. And she finds it later. You come back. Those kind of things weren't being done yet. So it was like very much like a hallmark, like Nick said, in gameplay. It was like they were playing with things that, and up in the ante and testing out things that were just like really cool that, we take for granted today.
Well, no, absolutely, Eric. Like that was Resident Evil 2 is why we have modern horror games. I know not to disparage the original Resident Evil, but Resident Evil 2 is the reason. It really is. That game was super important. And that's why this remake, this reimagining is so important, because we've been given, Capcom really has given that story to a new generation, but preserved it for the old at the same time.
Exactly. So I think they're going to do 3 now, right?
They're doing 3.
Right.
They're absolutely doing 3. Now, whether 3 or remake of 3 comes first or Resident Evil 8 comes first, that I couldn't tell you. I'm not sure about that. That could be either or. Maybe it'll take a while because they're going to be next gen. Maybe they'll be cross gen and we get one in 2021. I don't know, but yeah, it's coming. It's absolutely coming.
From what I understand, like they said, off the pre-orders alone, like they were pretty much, yep, we can go forward. Like they're going forward. So I guess 3 will come. I would imagine they're probably looking at Code Veronica.
I would say they're looking at Code Veronica. Unfortunately, I think they probably think that 4, 5, and 6 are, especially 5 and 6, obviously, are modern enough in quotation marks that they don't need to do anything to them. And on top of that, they're on modern systems. They're on the PC, they're on Xbox, they're on PS4, so they're preserved. They're like, we got them. They're here.
Yeah. But even though I've heard people saying that they would like to see a remake of 4, and I'm kind of like, I guess, but with what 2 did, it took a lot of that from 4, the things that worked, and put that in there.
Yeah,
I would almost like to see 3 and Code Veronica done before I saw 4 remade.
I would definitely like to see 3 and Code Veronica. They needed all the fixed camera angle games needed it. They're the ones that needed touch ups. 4 is in this awkward position where I get that it really doesn't look good anymore. Like it really hasn't aged well visually, that there's some things like, oh, you can't shoot and move at the same time. But it's like, it's modern enough. That's the problem with it. It's modern enough that it's just not worth the investment.
You think they need to retouch 1 before we move on?
We already had Remake, right? Where they touched it up visually. I don't think they will. I think it's a case. I think it's enough. Yeah, I was actually talking with John about that from SCGC. I think that's enough where it's like, it's preserved, right? It's on Xbox One. It's on PS4. We've done what we need to with it. I think Resident Evil 2 is what they're going to use as the jumping in point. Like, hey, this is the game where we really get the modern audience interested in Resident Evil who never played any of the other games. And now we, remake 3, move forward from there. All the other games are preserved and on the platforms if they want to play them. Yeah. I think that's what you do.
My biggest problem, I'll say it's a problem, is that there's 2 things that I wanted to bring up before we close out Resident Evil, because we'll talk about this all night. I think 1 needs to be redone, and there's a specific reason that 1 has a special place in my heart, and that's Wesker. To me, he has always been the epitome of the perfect villain. And as one of the 3 people in the world that actually likes the Resident Evil movies, all of them,
every single, like all of them.
I've heard the first is good. I've heard the first is good.
I enjoyed all of them for different reasons. And if anyone knows I have terrible taste in film, I know this. It's fine.
Well, we know you don't like the Marvel movies. We know that.
I actually like the Marvel movies. I sat down and watched a good majority of them. I actually enjoyed them. So,
Mr. Topsy-Turvy, spin us around.
Yes, and contrary to my memeing, Suicide Squad is not a good movie. Moving on from that, Resident Evil 1 always was. I never played 2, but I played 1. And that game scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. And I think that's why I want it to be remade. And the one thing I want people to take away from Resident Evil 2 Remake is this is survival horror. We've seen horror have a resurgence early on in the generation with games like Amnesia and Outlast and games like that. But those games never let you fight back. The whole fear was that you could only run. But it takes a really special developer being able to balance a game where you can fight back, but you have to pick your battles. And to me, that screams more survival horror, and things like Amnesia and Outlast are just horror games.
Right.
Things Resident Evil 2 and Evil Within 2 are doing things that many people may not appreciate. And the biggest thing is everyone's like, oh, Resident Evil 2 Remake came out. This is real survival horrors back. And I'm sitting there going, well, from what I've heard, then you should have played The Evil Within 2, because that's basically modern day Resident Evil.
Right. Which I just played recently.
Yeah.
You played 2 recently?
Oh, no, not 2. I'm sorry. 1.
I was going to say, like, that's news.
No. It's in the lineup.
No worries.
But this is the thing, is I really want developers to get back to making survival horror where you can fight back. There's boss battles. I want that. I love the puzzles in Resident Evil. Were they frustrating? Yes. Were they impossible to figure out? No. Yes, the amount of footsteps I probably take was well over that achievement by a country mile. The amount of backtracking and stupidity I had through that game was hilarious. As my wife laughed at me nonstop as I got frustrated looking for a freaking electric part. But no, the game's just really good, and it's amazing to see Capcom have the turnaround that they have with Resident Evil 7, Monster Hunter, releasing a fixed the Street Fighter 5 Arcade Edition to fix up all the mistakes they had with that game, Resident Evil 2 Remake, and them looking to the future of Resident Evil as a franchise. It's just a really good time for them. And I really hope that if anyone's doing, quote unquote, I put in quotations, remakes of games, you better examine this one, because this is the standard. This blows. Like, I was amazed with Shadow of the Colossus because it was it was amazing. It was one of a kind remake from the ground up, but still controlled like a PS2 game. You had peeled the remake lettering off of the Resident Evil 2 remake and just called it Resident Evil 2. There was no hints to me besides a few little things, like when you pick up an item, it zooms in on the item, and having it, like, the first thing that I didn't get used to right off the bat was examining things in my inventory, which took me forever to go, oh yeah, I got to look at this to get the puzzle solution for this, or things like that. But this is the new standard. Blue Point has to, whatever game they're working on, they've got to blow it out of the water, because this is a whole different beast now. And these HD remasters that we used to have just seem like jokes now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I paid $60 for Resident Evil, which is a series I am not a huge fan of, and now I am a huge fan of because of how I've played of it. And I'm looking at IO Interactive with their HD collection of Hitman Blood Money, which is one of my favorite games of all time, for $60. Like,
insult.
This ain't it, Chief.
Yeah.
This ain't it. But yeah, it's great that, as Eric said, it's great that Resident Evil 2 has found a new audience. It feels like there's a whole bunch of people that never played it before. They're playing it now. And people that are old heads that enjoyed the old ones are like, you kids thinking you can shoot your way out of everything. The amount of people, like, the amount of tweets, this game's terrible. I run out of ammo before I kill everything.
Stop it.
Just shut up forever. You click on their profile, they're like 60.
Why doesn't it autosave?
Why doesn't it autosave? Oh my god, that's my favorite. Don't play it on hardcore, because then you need like film to save, I'm pretty sure.
Ink ribbons. Yeah. You need the ink ribbons.
You need the ink ribbons. So, like, it's interesting. It's always so cool to go back and play.
I like the discussion around it, though.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just a one-of-a-kind experience that I would never trade back. Like, I beat the game in 6 hours. I'm going to do the second playthrough, and I'll probably end up trading in the game so I can afford Metro Exodus, but I don't regret the $90 I spent on that game. I don't regret one bit of it. It was well worth my money, and I enjoyed every second of it. So really, shout out to Capcom for delivering this experience and really starting to understand what their audience wants.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I'm looking at you, Konami. You got Silent Hill. Come on. It ain't that hard. Just put Silent Hill in the Fox engine. We'll call it a day.
Konami's got a lot that he could be doing.
Konami needs to. Okay, we're moving on. I'm gonna get angry. So
you might get that with me later then. But let's keep going.
So we're going to talk about a few. We've had a fair little bit of news over the 2 weeks we've been gone. So one of the big news stories was Metro Exodus, just short of a month before its release, was pulled from Steam for Epic Game Store exclusivity. So Deep Silver decided in their infinite wisdom that they were going to sign a deal with Epic Games, and Metro Exodus has a year exclusivity to the Epic Games Store. And will not
Media. Deep Silver is a subsidiary. They had no say.
Oh, okay. All the pieces I've seen online from everybody is blaming Deep Silver. I haven't seen anyone actually mention Koch Media at all. But regardless, so Metro Exodus now doesn't launch on Steam till February 15th, 2020. Any thoughts on this, guys? How the irony of Tim Sweeney money-hatting developers into his closed PC garden after when Microsoft was doing the Microsoft Store, how it was evil? Any thoughts?
I have thoughts, but it's complicated. Eric, do you want to say something?
Jump in there, Sam. It's
complicated because on the one hand, sure, the irony around Tim Sweeney is delicious. It absolutely is. Like him blaming Microsoft for a walled garden is laughable at this point. It really is. And then there's other things like the fact that, doing this a month before the game's release, much like Ashen, I'm not sure about this, better communication with your customers. Those who did already pre-order the game on Steam are still getting it, though. They're going to get all the DLC, all the updates, all the support. And at the same time, I see people's complaints like the fact that the Epic Game Store still doesn't have cloud saves. It doesn't have developer forums. It doesn't have a review system. So it's really behind Steam. At the same time, Steam has cultivated toxic forums. It has cultivated a toxic community in a lot of ways that is very, harassing towards developers sometimes. It's very demanding. And they've also refused to budge until very recently on the sharing of revenue, when it comes to like the 70-30 split. Now they're doing like a 70-25 or a 75-25, 80-20 split if developers, sell so many copies. But the Epic Store is like, hey, 88-12. That's it. We'll just take 12%. That's appealing. That's a very appealing number to developers to get much more money like that. So this is on everybody, really. It's a lot of factors, a lot of stuff. Complicated situation. This isn't going to be the last one. You're going to see more and more games going to the Epic Store as long as these deals keep getting cut, and Valve needs to respond. They need to figure something out.
So I'm going to say this because I did a mountain load of reading on this because this is a really, really complicated issue. Because the big problem that a lot of people have, and I talked to Al, aka Drunk Cat, on Twitter about this, is one of the reasons a lot of people have distrust for the Epic Games Store is because of Tencent. And to give background information on this, I'm not sure if I ever released the article about it or not, but Tencent is the Chinese gaming company. They do a lot of mobile games. They own a lot of shares in a lot of different things. It was a generally celebrated fact when Tencent had their shares in Ubisoft bought out. I think it was last year. The industry celebrated.
That was Vivendi, wasn't it? That was trying to take over Ubisoft, not Tencent.
I thought Vivendi and Tencent had shares.
Maybe it wouldn't surprise me if it was both of them. Sorry, I'm just trying to get clear.
I know
it would not surprise me if it was both.
Tencent got bought out of one of their major deals last year, and it was celebrated. I remember Vivendi was another one. But the thing is what people don't realize is Epic is 40% owned by Tencent. 40% of Epic Games. They sold it was 48.4%, but then they dropped 8.4% for company shares, which I'm not 100% on the business behind that. But in a long story short, Tencent owns Epic, essentially. And Tencent recently got embroiled. I'm not sure if people remember the Battle Royale game Ring of Elysium, I believe it was called. It was released to early access on Steam, and a lot of people thought it was a really cool Battle Royale game. People data mined it, and there was Chinese essentially information digger bugs built into the game. So there was malware built right into the game. And it was harvesting people's emails, phone numbers, credit card information, everything.
Wow.
They're basically, the game was a data mining front. And when Tencent was approached about it, they went, oh, it's just our DRM. It's just super illegal in anywhere but China. And they had to do some fixes. I don't know if the game's fixed or not. So that's a huge problem a lot of people have with the Epic stores, because you're basically giving money to Tencent. So it's kind of a wishy-washy area, but once again, it's one of those things where no one has consistent morals. No one wants to give money to Tencent, but if you bought PUBG, you gave money to Tencent because Tencent owns PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. They own PUBG Corp, essentially. So that's where one thing is. The other thing is that it's very sad for me to see in my news feed, to see all my, I'm going to say some of my PC gaming friends who claim to not have a preference be screaming at the top of their lungs about how dare anyone try to compete with Steam. It's very interesting to see a market who brags on PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo fans for having a preference, but now it's a big deal.
That is interesting. That never used to be their thing, right?
Well, the big thing with PC players is we have no corporate allegiances.
Right.
Well, actually, you do.
Yeah. Turns out you didn't have any because there was nobody really competing with you. Because you always heard Windows Store, people always like, yeah, right.
Well, the thing
and it was fine because sure, they're legitimate complaints, but at the end of the day, let's be honest here. Regardless of how altruistic it is or how beneficial it is for you, Steam has had a monopoly. That's all there is to it. They have had a monopoly, unless it's old games on GOG, Microsoft's games on the Windows Store, or EA stuff on Origin. Other than that, they've had a complete monopoly, and now that monopoly is being challenged. Sure, the competitor is unsavory, but I'm glad that they're being challenged. You shouldn't wish for one player to just control all the chips, because what happened with Valve? They completely ceased game development. No Half-Life 3, no Portal 3, no Left 4 Dead 3. No new IPs. Just, we're making money. Who cares? That's not something you should wish for. That's not something you should want. And I'll tell you this, I'm hoping that this gets Valve, this lights a fire under their butt, so to speak, to get them involved, get them communicating again, get them developing games, and get them changing things up and cleaning the forums up and stuff like that.
Right.
I'm sorry for ranting. I'm sorry.
No, it's not right at all.
The absolute biggest part of this is the Epic Games Store. Basically what Sweeney and company are doing is they made the Epic Games Store and they're using a console market sale structure to try to get the Epic Games Store off the floor. If we buy the exclusives, the people will come. This is how consoles are sold. So they're trying to use a console style marketing on a PC platform. But what they're not realizing is this just pisses people off. In this area, exclusivity is not something PC players are insanely happy about. And it comes from a spot of they just want to have all their games in one spot for a lot of people. For a lot of people, they don't care about the forums. They don't care about all the other features of Steam. They just like the sales and they like having all their games on one launcher, which I get. One of the most annoying things about PC gaming right now is that you have 7 different launchers. You have Uplay for Ubisoft games. You got Battle.net for Activision games. You got Bethesda launcher for Bethesda games. You've got all these different launchers, and it's annoying. It in the long run, it's not a big deal. It's just vaguely annoying.
Right.
But there's certain things that Steam does that Epic Games Store doesn't do that they do really well. But the thing is Steam needs to be competitive. Is the Epic Games Store the kind of competition that I wanted Steam to have? Not really. This isn't the competition Steam needed. But if Steam can change and get better because of it, then in the long run, it's a good thing. But I don't like Epic coming in and just money-hatting games. It's ugly. Because if we saw it being done in the console space, this would really piss people off. If Sony or Microsoft just started money-hatting third-party games off platforms weeks before launch, you imagine if, what's a big release? Anthem. You imagine if Microsoft just dropped God knows how much money, and just Anthem's now an Xbox exclusive 3 weeks before launch.
Mm-hmm. And sure, and that would be frustrating, but at the same time, while I get what you're going for, it's not a direct comparison because it's still on the same hardware. You don't have to buy $500 worth of new hardware to play it. That's the thing. Like, I get that it's frustrating, but it's not to the same scale. It can't be to the same scale.
It's not to the same scale, but the problem is that Epic Games just reeks of bad. And when I say reeks of bad is I have a Fortnite account. I have an Epic Games account. It's been compromised 5 times. 5 times my Epic Games account has been compromised. I played Fortnite once.
That was your fault.
Yeah. And now my Epic Games account has been compromised 5 times. So, like, you want me to put my credit card and buy games on your platform when you can't even secure console-based Fortnite accounts? Really? You're dreaming. I don't even trust Microsoft or Sony with credit card info. Like, I'm buying gift cards. Screw you guys. I don't trust any of y'all with my money. Like, it just, I don't like what the Epic Games Store is doing. Does Steam need competition? Yeah, but I don't know. It just, as Tim Sweeney said, I don't like walled gardens.
Yeah, you do.
But you know what Tim Sweeney does like? Lamborghinis.
Ain't it though?
So, last week, we also had a big announcement from France. And no, it was not that they surrendered. I'm Canadian. I'm allowed to make those jokes because of Quebec, okay? So Quantic Dreams, the developers behind such games as Heavy Rain, Detroit Become Human, and that other game that no one talks about. So they came off a really big year. Detroit was their fastest selling game. Not their best selling game because I still think that remains to be Heavy Rain in terms of lifetime sales, but Detroit was their fastest selling game of all time. Which
is the one that I'm talking about? Is that
Beyond Two Souls?
Hey, I like Beyond Two Souls. Come on, man.
Oh good lord.
It was okay, but it was free for me. So
yeah,
that's another discussion. That's another discussion altogether.
But I mean, it's not the worst game. It's not the worst. It was an interesting experiment.
No. I mean, it intrigued me enough to finish it. Like
exactly.
I liked parts of it. I think it could have been done a lot better. I think there's things that could have been improved, but it had some neat concepts, and it's a completely different discussion.
Yes. We're not going to go in the weeds on that one, but yeah.
Shout out to whoever just disliked the video. I love you, and if it was because you were French, I'm sorry.
I apologize to all of our French listeners on behalf of this podcast.
All the French listeners that listen to me butcher the English language on a weekly basis, I apologize. So Quantic Dreams, they had a huge success with Detroit. I feel like Detroit kind of flew under the radar because it was kind of sandwiched in between 2 blockbusters in Sony's lineup, being stuck between God of War and Spider-Man. Maybe one of the worst positions in history to be stuck between. Because I think Detroit would have been, as much as I don't like Quantic Dreams, I think it was a huge game for them, and it was probably one of Quantic Dreams' best games. And they kind of got buried in between 2 really, really good games. But Quantic Dreams has appeared to move on from its partnership with Sony as they are focusing on going multi-platform, as said by their co-CEO, the one that I cannot pronounce his name and I will not butcher it, the other guy that is not David Cage. So they're going multi-platform, and also NetEase, which everyone remembers is the Chinese conglomerate that invested $100 million into Bungie pre their Activision split. Has also bought a minority stake in Quantic Dreams. And at this time, there's no information onto what the size of that stake is. It's just an assumption that's a minority stake, and that both Quantic Dreams and NetEase have made it crystal clear that the studio will continue to be independent and will be run by David Cage, and they will continue to make the things that their fans love. Any thoughts on Quantic Dreams going multi-plat and another Chinese game company investing in developers? Any thoughts, guys?
Well, I just wanted to say it's Guillermo de Fondema. That's that's the co-CEO. Yeah, so I had to look at his name and I had to think that one over in my head for a few seconds there. That one's not easy. But Eric, do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah. I'm not surprised, to be quite honest, and I don't really know what led to this announcement of the multi-platform possibilities. I think it might be a little of column A, a little column B. And column A being Sony was like, okay, you guys have a lot of heat around you, but with not a tremendous amount of return for the headache. So maybe we're going to go this way. But on the Quantic Dream side, they're probably looking at, we're going into a world where multi-platform is better. You know, it gives you more opportunity to make profit. It gives you more opportunity to fund your gaming or your studio. So I think somewhere in between is where, you know, things lie. So yeah, that's pretty much my take on it. As far as NetEase, like investing in them, money. And I think that pushes the multi-platform thing. It's like, if we're going to do this, you definitely have to be in a place where we're going to see more profit from it.
It's also it's also interesting to note, I'll throw it in too, it was discovered afterwards, Quantic Dreams has opened up 16 positions. In Quantic Dreams, this is the first major hiring spree since I think 2000, just before Beyond Two Souls, actually. And all of it is for mobile applications of Android and iOS applications. So it looks like they'll be working on a mobile game.
Which doesn't surprise me either.
Well, NetEase is notorious for mobile ports. I believe NetEase is behind all of Blizzard's mobile ports in terms of Heroes of the Storm and things like that in China. So it doesn't surprise me at all that NetEase is investing in them, and now they're building up a mobile. I think it's one of those things where they're going to dabble in mobile games to make some free money to fund their big projects.
And yeah, honestly, the types of games that they do are easily implemented in mobile. With like Telltale games and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, even if not to the same quality level, perhaps that style of game is.
Right.
But yeah, I think Eric, I think he hit it. You hit it rather than the nail on the head. The fact is, they had a lot of heat around them. I mean, they literally lost court cases, at least one that I'm aware of. They were suing journalistic outlets in France, which, generally speaking, is not a good look. That's just that is what it is. And so, as a result, I don't blame Sony at all for going, okay, this is your best-selling game ever. It still hasn't hit 3 million. All right, is what it is. And, NetEase sees an opportunity here because NetEase has had a lot of issues breaking into the Chinese markets despite being a Chinese company because of some government regulations and some other things. Like, they haven't been able to make a lot of acquisitions over there is basically what I'm getting at. So first, NetEase making that $100 million funding / minority stake in Bungie, now making a minority stake in Quantic Dream. It makes sense. They're interested in investing. They're interested in, checking out some more Western developers and funding their projects for a stream of revenue. Makes sense.
Yeah, and it's common knowledge too. NetEase, as Sam noted, NetEase had troubles due to legal restrictions, everything else, and Tencent basically owns a monopoly in China as far as assets go. So that's one of the reasons NetEase has kind of been looking to the West as far as investments go, because the West is rather, I'm not going to say clean, because there is a lot of companies that don't own a majority of themselves, but are owned by larger conglomerates, but it's not to the scale that the Chinese game market is. So my basic feeling is it's just Quantic Dreams is going to make more games that I'm not going to buy on more of my platforms. That's all there is to it. Is I will continue to not buy David Cage games, and I wish the developers the best. And shout out to someone on PayPal who's tried to send me the money to buy and play Detroit Become Human. I reversed your transaction. No, thank you.
No, wait, I'll do it. What you doing, you fool?
Sam's running through the crowd. I volunteer as tribute.
Sam and I don't share Nick's high moral standard when it comes to games.
It's hilarious.
If someone else is paying the checks, well, what can I say?
It's hilarious. I will say this. I am a hypocrite because when Rockstar came out, it was like, we worked our people for 100 hours. It turned out it wasn't completely true, but I was sitting there with my copy of Red Dead like, what moral high ground? Literally the only moral high ground I hold in video games is literally David Cage. That's it. That's the only thing
Well, even Rockstar and Quantic Dream, I think there's a bit of a difference in those kinds of allegations, but
yeah, but it's very different. And it's important to note, as it was clearly pointed to me in a thread that I will not talk about, that David Cage has never actually been prosecuted for anything, so there's no physical proof that he's a slime ball piece of garbage. I am sorry.
Yeah. No actual proof, and we have actual proof of tons of other scumbags that hate. So, but hey, the thing about scumbag is eventually their proof hits. So if he is definitely a scumbag, we haven't seen the last of David Cage.
Well, all I gotta say is, if you don't think he's a scumbag, play till the end of Fahrenheit and then watch the outro scene and just wonder what the hell goes on in that man's brain. But we've kind of had two downer topics, so we've got two. What are you doing? Okay. Sorry, my wife just like tapped me on the head. I just got scared out of my hell.
It's Mr. X.
What I thought it was. I was just like, oh god, she's in a trench coat and she's gonna punch me. So we've kind of had some like negative news to kick it off, which I kind of hate negative news. So we're going to talk about something a little bit more positive. So Media Molecule got some good advice from someone. I'm not saying they listened to our podcast at all or anything, but they removed the NDA on Dreams. Because as a lot of people know, this game took forever to get out in beta. The beta was supposed to originally come out in fall of 2016. Beta finally came to public access in December for people that were subscribed to the newsletter, and then a more open style, I'm not going to say completely open, you still needed to receive an email from them. Beta for Dreams came out in late December, early January. But the big thing is there was a whopping NDA that you weren't allowed to share or talk about anything you experienced in Dreams, which it seems kind of like a shot in the foot. When you're taking like 6 years to make a game, you kind of like, if people get their hands on it, you want them to talk about it. So the beta went on for about a week, and the developers behind Dreams, Media Molecule, went, the NDA's lifted, stream and show off your creations. And holy cow, what is this game? And why does it look so amazing? Now, I didn't get a chance to get into the beta because I'm lazy when it comes to PlayStation stuff. I'm terrible with it. Have either of you guys had a chance to play Dreams?
No, I didn't get my beta invite. I'm nursing a nice grudge over it.
I started dabbling around with the beta a little bit last night. I didn't go too in depth with it though.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't create PT or anything.
Yeah, this is what I want to talk about with Dreams. Like, when I see Dreams, this is one of those games where people with huge imaginations are going to craft amazing things. And we've already seen it. Did you guys see that first-person shooter someone made that looked better than 90% of the games I've played in the past year?
Yeah.
Dead Space, it looked a little bit like Dead Space meets Ashen, but still looked really cool. That PT remake is spooky, though. I saw a walkthrough of that, and that is next level. So commercial success aside, and for the amount of time that Media Molecule has been working on this game, do you think all that work and time has paid off for Media Molecule? I know we're only looking at beta footage right now, but this beta footage, like I said, I don't think it guarantees financial success for Media Molecule, but if anything, I think they've met all the goals they promised with this game. Thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I mean, like going simply off of the clips and GIFs and whatnot that I've seen others post, it seems incredibly comprehensive. The tools seem incredibly in depth. Like it's clear Media Molecule has been putting a ridiculous amount of effort into this. I want to know more about how it works. Even if I'm not going to be able to make anything myself, if I don't have the skill to or whatever, I want to know more about the tech in this. I want to know more about how this thing works. From what little I can understand, it seems like it's voxel based rather than pixel based, which is what allows them to make, these large worlds or whatever that don't take up a lot of space, if I understand it correctly. But I'm not sure what the drawbacks to that are. So I'm trying to do more research. That's what little I can tell you. But it seems like in the hands of talented creators that you can do crazy, crazy stuff with it.
What about you, Eric?
Yeah, no, I kind of co-sign on what Sam's saying there. As far as the NDA goes, yeah, the smartest thing they could have done is lift that. And I'm honestly wondering if that was like Media Molecule or if that was like Sony or somebody gave that mandate and someone said this is dumb.
I've got a theory on it. I'll go into it once you finish your thoughts. I've got a theory on that.
But at the start of the beta, they actually, have a message from some of the people at Media Molecule about, the NDA and sharing and this and that. And it didn't necessarily, in my opinion, look like they were all aboard for that, but they were just kindly reminding people, be careful about what you share and, what you talk about, if anything, which for this type of game just seemed insane. This is the kind of game you want everybody talking about and everybody sharing, because how else do you sell it?
Right.
And so whoever decided, hey, this was dumb, so no NDA, let's just let people go, was smart. So whoever that person was, let them get their coffee first in the morning, because that makes more sense.
Yeah.
So, but I had like a lot of questions around how they plan to monetize the game.
Yeah.
And how people will access the content that is made. If people, will they maybe, sounds like this might be something that needs a creators program.
Yeah.
Because if people are going to be investing their time in making stuff for people to play, like, I imagine it would be nice to get some kind of profit out of it. Like, will there be profit share? It's just, there's so many things, because it's not like
there's so many questions and content strikes. Like, we have to keep in mind, or copyright strikes rather,
right.
Content rather. Like, I know generally speaking, recreations, as long as you're not using original assets, have fallen under, fair use. And it's like, but if it's monetized, is that going to be okay anymore if people try to sell this kind of stuff? Because seems like you'll get slapped with a DMCA, if you've got Darth Vader walking around in a paid pack or something. How does that work? I don't know. I'm not saying it will. I don't know the answers to those questions.
I think that's why you will see this isn't going to be monetized, because I don't think, in a legal sense, if you monetize it, there's a whole bunch of issues that come from that. As far as how do people access other people's worlds, I imagine it'd be similar to the games like Roblox, where you can have a search bar and you can search for specific worlds or specific genres of games that people have created. In terms of how, like, if people are going to be investing the time in creating these complicated worlds and everything else, are they compensated for that? It's already been seen and noted by some developers that they're going to take and contact some of these Dreams creators because they're doing amazing work in a pre-generated system. What could they do in a development perspective? So it sounds almost like this game will be used to pick out developers by exposure, which, let's face it, it's hard to get out there as a games developer. I've seen several people I follow on Twitter who do amazing things, struggle endlessly to get their stuff out there. So if Dreams creates a creative outlet where people can show off what they think about it, like I had a friend who was in games development with me. He now works for PR with a video game developer. He doesn't get to make the games. He just gets to sell the games and deal with all the fun BS about dealing with the public. And he always wanted to make this super ambitious first-person shooter. And we always talked about how we wanted to do it and everything else. And neither one of us could program anything that was past 16-bit. And he always had this huge ambition for it. But with something like Dreams, someone with that kind of creative vision, while it's still a complicated tool to use, they could create that within that game. And even if it just gives that person the satisfaction of going, I made that, I think that's the worth in the game. Is this game going to sell gangbusters? I don't know. I think if they put this game out for $60, they're putting it out to die. And it's sad because it's hard to sell this. This is a hard sell at 60. Yeah. But even how amazing this game looks.
And the tricky part is, at the same time, I realize Media Molecule is a small studio, 50, 60 developers. And that's one of the reasons this has taken time. But at the same time, even if it's a smaller studio, that's a lot of paychecks to be paying for this many years.
Well, Dreams, I believe, when I was reading up on it prior to the podcast, I'm pretty sure it was teased in 2013.
It was officially announced in 2014 or 2015, but it was actually teased in 2013 because it was part of what was used to do assets for the PS4 announcement, the PS4 reveal event. Used some assets from Dreams.
Yeah, because at Gamescom 2012, Media Molecule announced they were working on 2 different projects, with one being Tearaway, which released. Dreams was revealed at PlayStation Meeting 2013, with Evans showing a technical demo on stage involving 3 people creating an in-game band. A teaser for the game was officially released in July 2014. The game was officially announced at Sony Interactive Entertainment's press conference at 2015. A beta for the game was originally set to be released in 2016. However, it was delayed to 2017 and then to 2018, and then was delayed. The demo and the game was delayed to 2019, even though technically the beta for it was supposed to be a demo turned into a beta. The original demo was supposed to land, I think, just before Christmas. So they technically got it like 7 days before. Basically the same thing that Ashen did was, we're still going to hit 2018, guys. It's just going to be the last 12 days. But no, whatever the price tag is on Dreams, I'm there day one. I love what Media Molecule does.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go for it, Eric.
No, I was just going to say, I'm seeing what Dan Rodriguez is saying, and I'm kind of on the same page with him, because I remember, like, with Little Big Planet, like, you would log into the game, and there would just be, and it's almost like Mario Maker as well, there's just, like, shared games, like the stuff people are creating that are put up there, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's just Little Big Planet stuff. And some people are putting up some really intense, like, levels, like, I think I heard someone mention recently that someone created like the entirety of Final Fantasy VII in Little Big Planet. Right.
So, right. And other Final Fantasy games as well. Right. I think have been made in there.
So I can't imagine what they're going to create with this thing. So with that being said, yeah, if they have like creators making very interesting product, very interesting games, and maybe it's a thing like they have to come back not with another beta, but some form of, a pre-release type thing where people can start putting content up to kind of make that more viable. Mm-hmm. If they're going to be charging $60, but like he said, if there's like a host of stuff in there, and I'm sure there'll be some good stuff and there'll be some junk, you might have to sift through it. But if there's like a whole host of different things to play and different experiences, and especially if they start tying to VR, if they can tie VR back into it, it could absolutely be worth the price of admission.
Yeah. There's a lot of questions, pricing, curation, because you're going to have a lot of crap. I'm sure that you're going to have to figure out.
Curation is going to be key.
Curation is going to be difficult. Media Molecule is going to have their hands full. Sony's going to have their hands full. But the potential is beyond staggering, and that's the cool thing. That's the optimistic thing. When do you guys think we're going to see this released?
I don't really want to touch the release date question for one simple reason is there's a whole bunch of other games that probably take priority over Dreams, and I don't know where they're landing either. For me, if Dreams doesn't come out before August, say goodbye to Media Molecule. Because if that game starts to go anywhere near the fall holiday season, it's done, especially if it's a $60 game.
You don't think it could be their September game?
No, I think they have something bigger planned for September. I can't see them, after having seen Spider-Man's success in that time frame, I don't see them giving Dreams that spot.
I think I do think it comes this year, possibly before August, but I think it also still gets another. I think it releases on PS4, but I think when it comes around to PS5, it gets another push as in a like Dreams 2.0 with added like things that you can do, like a new creator content pack type of thing. I think it's still going to get that push. Because I remember before we were talking about, Sam, like it could be pushed back to PS5, but we don't even really know now what that window is anymore.
Right.
But I can see it being like an updated like type thing for PS5 release to kind of re-push it against, as another type of launch thing.
Right. I think I do. I think if it can't make by like this August or this September, that you just bite your tongue and hold it. Just keep on holding it until the PS5. That makes sense.
Or hey, what if they did something like this? Talk about. I know we're going to get into our prediction part, but what if they say, we're going to have like a Dreams creator program, to coincide with the launch of XYZ, or PS5,
I think that makes sense. You could do something like that. Get more attention around it.
Yeah. Like get out there, create, make, and
I definitely think we'll get into this in the predictions probably, but it will break my heart if Dreams comes out and it deadpans, because all the years that small team put into it, and the amount of hard work and what is coming out of it, it makes me sad if this can't find success, because I think this is I said this about Project Spark, and Project Spark ran into a lot of issues that it never tackled, and Media Molecule is going to face those same issues. But it's whether or not they can jump the jumps they need to make. And I really hope they can, because they're an absolutely lovely team. And this has been one of my most anticipated PS4 games, like top 3 for a very long time, because I can't wait to play what other people make. Me, I might be able to make a copy of Genital Jousting in Dreams.
I think he's probably going to remake like General Custer's Revenge or
oh my god,
no, Eric, no, do not tell the ultra sensitive internet people about Custer's Last Stand.
that is a name I haven't heard for a good few years now. Yeah. Wow, thank you. Thanks,
Eric. I'm actually going to go back and watch Machinima now. Oh wait, Machinima's gone. Never mind.
Oh jeez.
Oh, I just suddenly got very, very sad. Oh man, Skyrim poop was the best. That's no one can change my mind on that. All right, so the last piece of news. Development of Metroid Prime 4 is starting over. Retro Studios is now developing, as reported on Tick Games Network by Mr. Samuel Tolbert, who I do not know or associate with. At E3 2017, Nintendo announced Metroid Prime 4 for the Nintendo Switch with the reveal of the logo, which everyone knows on Twitter, it was like the second coming had happened, was when Metroid Prime 4 was announced. And I'm sitting there going, I don't think I've played a Metroid game. So what ended up happening is Shinya Takahashi, who is the senior managing executive officer, gave an update on the development of the game. He said that the development game had become, quote unquote, very challenged, and to start, quote, by collaborating and developing with Retro Studios, we believe we can make this game something that will meet our fans' expectations, end quote. He wanted to confirm that development was basically being restarted. The game will be heavily delayed from the original internal plan, which it's important to note, they said original internal plan, which was, they never gave us a date. So whenever they thought it was going to land, it's going to be even farther than that. So that's interesting. They apologize for the delay and really wish the fans the best. I really like this. There's a couple of reasons I really like this. This is a developer coming out and owning that it wasn't working out. We had to restart. They could have left people in the dark, and Nintendo, as a golden rule of thumb, generally does. This is a one-off for them, and I love it. And actually, I was never more proud of Twitter's reaction to it, of all things, because a good majority were just like, well, I'm glad you were honest with us, and we all kind of thought Retro should have been making it in the first place, so we think you made a really good decision. We look forward to playing it later. And I'm sitting there going, who are these people? Where did they come from? Why are they so nice? The only thing that I kind of have, like, it's obviously good they're restarting development. I'm kind of glad that Nintendo has that level of quality control where they're like, this isn't working. We need to restart this. Very few developers restart development on something. You look at Sony Santa Monica with the millions and millions of dollars they invested in that sci-fi IP that no one will talk about. A lot of games get scrapped. Look how many times The Last Guardian ended up getting scrapped. Duke Nukem got scrapped, oh God, like 2 or 3 times before Duke Nukem Forever, which is still one of the best video games on Xbox 360. But so Retro Studios is taking over the development of Metroid Prime 4. There's a method to my ranting madness right now. Retro Studios is taking it over, but they were reportedly working on a Star Fox game.
Were they working on that Star Fox racing game?
It's something like that. I can't remember what they were working on.
Rumor is. We do not actually know that for certain. That's
so my question is, did they have to scrap that project to take this project over? Or because everyone seems to have forgotten that Retro Studio came out and said, we aren't developing Metroid because we're working on something else. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think? Do you guys think we're going to see a Metroid trilogy? I think it's a HD trilogy port that everyone keeps talking about. Are we going to see something for the fans in the next year or two to kind of tide them over?
Yep.
I think that, I mean, Imran Khan from Game Informer and many, many, many others who are trustworthy have gone on record saying that Metroid Prime Trilogy is not only a thing, it's done. Like, it's been done. It has been completed. They're waiting to print the cartridges and ship it out. My guess is that they're going to hold it until late in this year or very, very early 2020. So sometime in the next 12 months to keep people interested, get people interested again. Because, like, okay, let's be honest here. Metroid Prime, it did okay. It sold well. It got rave critical reviews, but it's never been a tentpole franchise for Nintendo, ever.
Nope.
Like, it has never been a tentpole for them. You know, you ask anyone who's like under 21, 22 about Metroid Prime, they're going to say, huh? What? Mm-hmm. Like, there's a good chance they haven't played it, you know, under that age. So I think dropping the trilogy sometime either late 2019, early 2020 is a good way of keeping interest alive, keeping people interested in Metroid Prime, getting people reacquainted with those games. Because now this is what, optimistically, 2022, if development is starting over.
Given Nintendo's track records with that series in particular, I'm thinking like 2023 maybe. Like, if we're restarting over and we look at typical development cycle for most big games, depending on the scale of what this Metroid game was going to be, you're looking 3 to 4 years if they're starting from the ground up, would be the optimistic look. So it's 2019 now. Yeah, 2023 seems like the most likely, because I am doubtful they could just make a new Metroid game in 2 years. That'd be insane.
Yeah. So with that in mind, you know, it's tough. It sucks. At the same time, I appreciate Nintendo's honesty. You know, mm-hmm. I do appreciate. I mean, what can I say? What else is there to say? It really sucks. They handled it probably as best you can handle an announcement like that.
Mm-hmm. No, Nintendo to me has always been a need to know company. Like, they play things very close to the vest. I don't think, you know, if you talk about like transparency, I think they let you know what you need to know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's something big enough that you needed to know, because it wasn't like a thing like it's going to be delayed like Zelda. Like, we know why they kind of held Zelda. It needed more work. It needed more time. And then they got close enough to the Switch where it's like, you know what? It's just going to be a cross-generational game.
Yep.
You know, which made sense. Do that. But that's not something they gave the updates when they needed to give the updates. Like, hey, look, it's going to be a little bit longer, guys. It's going to be a little bit longer, but hey, we promise it's coming. When you have to completely start over with a game, you got to come to your audience and say, hey, we know we showed you this JPEG. We know you've been waiting. This is why you haven't heard about it. So obviously there's something that was majorly wrong with what they had. It wasn't up to what they wanted. And that is the one thing about Nintendo. You can set your watch to their game. Whether you like their franchises, whether you like their games or not, whether the game becomes like a fan favorite or whatever the case may be, the game will work.
Mm-hmm.
That is, it's they're not known for having bugs. They're known for their quality.
Right.
And they very much take pride in it. They do not mess with that. So yeah, so that's why I told you guys the other day. It didn't surprise me that they came forward with this. It's big enough for them to come forward with.
Right. They had to be honest about it. They had to be open. They handled it the appropriate way.
Yep.
It does suck. It's going to be a while now, but is what it is. We'll see what their first party output looks like for 2019. Because we don't have any real release dates right now, do we?
We were going to get them at that January Direct.
Stop it. The same people have waited for the the January Direct. Didn't that come from the same source as the big February PlayStation event?
wait, guys, it's February. February Direct month. Let's go. Hype it up.
Stop it now.
Hey, if I put that on Twitter that, WCCF Tech is going to turn that into an article.
Dude. All right, Lord. But yeah, so it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how things go. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. That is what it is. So now we come into the fun final part of the show. It's the as Anchorman would call it, the wild and zany part of the show, where we're going to give you guys 3 incredibly ridiculous predictions. And we're talking out there. We're talking like tinfoil hat. I've got scraggled hair and I'm pointing at a board that has nothing on it. That's how serious the prediction is going to be. Or at least that's how serious I'm going to be with it. Actually, just speaking on that note, I just got an email. We are actually an Epic Games exclusive podcast now. So you'll only be able to watch the show through the Epic Games Store.
Makes it a roll.
I'm sorry, what did I come back to? I had to look my kid out.
Sorry, Sam. I just got an email that said we are no longer allowed to broadcast on YouTube. We are in a Epic Games Store exclusive now.
Oh, that's funny.
Our wild, crazy predictions for 2019. So how this is going to work is we all have 3 predictions, or should have 3 predictions. They are going to be pretty out there. We're going to go one by one. We're not going to do all 3 of ours in a row or even really comment on each other's. We'll just, whichever one seems the wackiest, we'll probably talk about at the end. So we're going to start with Eric, because him and Sam fight for the most middle of the ground, level-headed in the podcast. So I'm very interested to see your first prediction.
My first prediction, I'm going to go with one I already shared with you guys. I'm going to be bullish. I'm going to say The Last of Us 2 is still coming in 2019. And Ghost of Tsushima will be your cross-gen time, your cross-gen game this time around.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I still think it's going to happen.
That's cute. Hey, it's good. Hey, that's good. Hey, we're talking wild. That's good.
And like I told you guys, I'm either going to be the GOAT or I'm going to be a GOAT.
Yes, exactly. You know so, either way.
Yeah.
Sam,
okay.
You next.
Oh, geez. There's so many viable applications for what we could do here. Wild. Okay, I got one wild. Sony says nothing this year. Nothing. No PSX. PSX 2019 does not happen. They're hoarding it for an event early in 2020. They're going to keep the anticipation building for as long as possible. No event this year.
Oof.
You say you wanted wild, right?
Actually, given their financial stats, this that came out a few days ago, I actually believe they would actually do that. Why is that believable? Sam, thanks for planting a seed of doubt in my head. Wild and zany prediction? Which one do I go with first? I'll go with this one.
Okay.
Last of Us Part 2 is a 2020 game. Ghost of Tsushima is a 2020 game. Death Stranding is a 2021 game. And Concrete Genie is going to get delayed into the September window to fill the void where The Last of Us Part 2 should have been.
So, okay, so it's only Wild due to it being all of those. All of those would have to come true one by one. Okay, all right.
I'm playing the long game. I'm playing the game. There is a gentleman on Twitter who's told me that he would buy me a full-price game if Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima, and Last of Us Part 2 all came out this year. So I'm feeling pretty good about my odds of getting a full-price game. But I wonder if all three don't come out. Do I get 3 full-price games?
Did all 3 come out this year?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, Eric's like, I ain't taking that bet, fam.
It's like too far, too wild. He's playing too wild.
That's wild, yeah.
Eric's been playing video games enough for long enough to know you never bet on Hideo Kojima. All right, Eric.
Let's see. Off the strength of Resident Evil 2, and we're just going crazy. Doesn't matter if it happens, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because I went as crazy as possible. Nothing's founded in any type of reality here. But it just sounds fun. Something I like to see. Okay, off the strength of Resident Evil 2, Sega partners with Nintendo to bring remastered or remade Dreamcast hits to Switch.
Nice.
That is nice, and if that happened, I would buy a Switch so damn fast. You don't even know. Like I wouldn't even buy Nintendo games. What's that? It's my portable Dreamcast.
Exactly. Because I'm gonna tell you like this, man. I have not changed. I still have it. I have the Dreamcast theme on my 3DS. I paid for that,
dude. I will always say that I just bounce from one bad console to another because I love the Dreamcast, I love the PS3, and I love the Xbox One.
Hey, Dreamcast was not a bad console. Xbox One was not a bad console. PS3 is not a bad console late. Early on, it was
once they got things figured out, it was not a bad console.
Yeah. But Dreamcast, man. Imagine, that library with updated games.
Ooh.
On the portable on the Switch.
Eric, that's wild. That's wild, man.
That is wild and woolly.
It's so wild that I wanted to happen that I'm actually hurting.
Yeah. Now it's one of those things where it's no longer fun. It now gets annoying if it doesn't happen. Right?
It got real.
It's so funny you say that because now I'm sitting there going, it'd be really cool if I could play Dreamcast games on a PS Vita, and then I'm like, why isn't this a thing? Why can't we have good handhelds? Damn it. Sam, next wild and zany prediction.
Wild and zany prediction. Okay. Cyberpunk 2077 and The Last of Us Part 2 come out within 2 weeks of each other in May 2020.
Ooh, that's a game of chicken.
That is...
May 2020 has to be within 2 weeks of each other. Both of them.
Whew, okay.
You know it makes sense. You know it.
CD Projekt Red likes to release around that time. Naughty Dog, that's a really comfortable date for them. I really want to play both those games too, and I know I'd go broke and homeless.
That's the problem. That's like if those two come out within 2 weeks of each other, play like the wind. Just play as quick as you can.
I just hope if I have to pick an order, I want The Last of Us Part 2 to come out first, and then Cyberpunk 2077 to come out after that, because Last of Us Part 2 will be a faster game for me than Cyberpunk will.
For sure. But yeah, so that's my second. That's my second.
Whew. That's spicy. I got one, though.
Okay.
Along with the PlayStation PS5 unveiling at a PSX in 2020.
PSX 2020?
In the spring.
Okay, so it'd be in the spring. Okay, all right.
PSX style event 2020. They revealed the PS5 and its buying price, which will go live in the summer. And along with the PlayStation 5, there's going to be a companion device a handheld device. And it'll be optional, but in very similar forms, they'll be able to take your games anywhere, more on the go, like what they promised with the Vita, but we're ultimately unable to do.
We ain't doing this, fam. we ain't doing this.
PS5 will have a Vita. They won't call it a Vita if they're smart. Don't try to do if they come out with the Vita 1, you know, Dom Matrix has interfered with PlayStation marketing in some way.
Will the nomenclature be something tied to the PS5?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's going to be for me, it's a companion handheld because it's doing what Sony does best. And when Nintendo does something innovative, Sony's like, I need to do that.
Hey, man, I say, B-Money and I say this all the time, man. Sony they're competitive, they're arrogant, and they're petty. That makes for, we will jump out of the airplane.
That is one heady combo. That is one heady combo of cocktails.
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff.
Eric?
Nick's going with Colin Moriarty because Colin said the same thing. He wouldn't put it past him to do it. So
I would love that. See, no, I won't rant about Vita. I won't rant. I'm going to rant about Vita at the end of this. I need to rant about Vita. But we got one prediction from everyone else still. So, Eric,
okay,
your final one.
Konami is coming back in a big way.
Ooh.
Because,
okay.
because Konami's not motivated by anything but money.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Uh-huh.
They're seeing, again, we're back in the world where we're seeing resurgence from companies who were somewhat dormant, right? They have a successful run going on right now with Castlevania. So I see them coming back in a big way, not necessarily with a brand new game, but I definitely see them coming maybe with some kind of collection of Castlevania, a la Mega Man collections.
Okay. All right.
And it'll be different anthologies, different volumes, but every Castlevania game remastered and available on all platforms.
You're making this prediction for your friend. I know you are. You're an evaluating person.
Hey, I was trying to talk to him the other night because he sent me the link. He gets excited about these things. He sent me the link that mobile game is coming, right? So yeah, so I built off of that one, but I was trying to talk him down a bit. I said that them bringing that mobile game here from Japan has nothing to do with them actually being interested in bringing any game anywhere. They're seeing the fact that people like the Castlevania show, and they're saying it's easy to put this game over in the mobile market and see what happens with it because people are talking Castlevania over here.
I think what they'll do is they'll remake Silent Hill, but they'll get the guy who did the intro screen for the recent Castlevania remaster.
Oh, God. To get that to the...
Give that to the unpaid intern who you yelled at the hour before you made
that. Is a monkey's paw. That is like the textbook definition of the finger curling on the monkey's paw right now. Oh, my God.
They got a kid that dropped out of Barber College to design it. That is like that whole thing, man, could have been so amazing. And they just,
The games themselves, that's good.
Except for the fact that, they went with the changing the voiceover and everything. I was like,
oh, wait, they changed the voiceover?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they took out, it's not the original Symphony of the Night. They changed it's a dialogue change, but diehards definitely took notice of that.
Huh. I did not know that. I did not. Wow.
Yeah, and then that title screen. Yeah, they could have really done something really nice with it.
Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah. So anyway, based off of that, I kind of started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? Let's just go crazy.
Yeah.
I like Dan Rodriguez's spicy one from the chat. He says Death Stranding's story will be completely and totally logical and understandable.
That's funny. Some of us already understand it. Some of us already understand.
Oh, some of us don't have IQs past double digits, Sam. So let's.
I didn't say anything about that. It's right there in the YouTube description. You know what? Never mind.
Have you read the YouTube description for some of those Metal Gear Solid games? That's not really what happens. Because we all know that somehow there's going to be a snake moment in Death Stranding. You'll find a cave, and Norman Reedus will walk into the cave. And he'll look down and he'll go, snake! And you'll get super excited, but it's just going to be a little green python. And it's going to go away. and that'll be an Easter egg. I've just got my tinfoil hat on at this point. Sam, please give a more logical prediction than I'm going at this point.
So I've got a couple that I could choose from. I've got 2 or 3 that I could choose from, and it's really difficult here because, only one more. But frankly, okay, given the way things have been going, this is getting wilder by the second. Respawn Entertainment's Star Wars game. Jedi Knight Fallen Order. We literally had it announced when Andrea Renee passed a microphone to one of the devs in an audience. That reveal was ludicrous.
Was that Vince Zampella himself?
Yes, it was Vince Zampella. Thank you.
Looked like he wanted to leave the auditorium.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So my last wild and zany prediction is Jedi Knight Fallen Order comes out on time, is universally acclaimed, sells well, is perceived as one of the greatest Star Wars games of the last decade, and is a Game of the Year contender.
Okay, so I'll give you. I'll give you the best Star Wars game in 10 years because that goes back to 2009, and I can't remember a good Star Wars game before 2009. So I'm okay with that. Game of the Year contender? Star Wars? Respawn making a really critically acclaimed loved game? Yeah, I believe that. People embrace it? No, because everyone goes, Respawn makes such great games. I'm going to buy it when it's $2.
Hey, you wanted wild, man. You wanted wild.
You are a wild man. You are a wild man. My final and zany prediction is that these following games will become Epic Game Store exclusives in the upcoming months.
Oh, no.
Devil May Cry 5.
No.
Mm-hmm. I also believe that in this final wild and zany prediction that you'll start seeing Microsoft games hit the Epic Game Store first.
Nah. No.
Sam's like,
you wild.
No.
You wild.
Yeah, I'm making these predictions on top of this Lamborghini that I randomly found. And no one gave to me. Oh, man. Yeah, so that's the podcast. It was a great episode, guys. I have one final thing I have to talk about. So, I was in the process of getting myself a PlayStation Vita. I don't know a lot about the Vita. When the Vita came out, I was broke. A lot of people realize I was an Xbox guy for a long time. I was broke. I couldn't afford a PlayStation. I could barely buy new games. So when the Vita came out, I didn't really pay attention to what went on with the system. All I know is when I started taking gaming more seriously, bought a PS4, everyone's like, yeah, Vita's garbage. Don't touch it. Don't look at it. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, I don't know why. It seems like it's pretty cool. It looks like one of the most developed handhelds. Whatever. So I didn't pay attention to that. So I got into my hands a deal on a Vita, and it was a really great price for the Vita. And I was like, oh, this is great. Get the Vita for I think it was gonna be $30. It came with the Uncharted game. Perfect. Didn't have a memory card though.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, it's just an SD memory card. No big deal, dude. No. So I Google it, and in Canada, for a 16 gigabyte PS Vita memory card, it's in excess of about $98. And they want around $150 for the 64 gigabyte memory card. This system does not have base memory. You cannot save your games if you do not have a memory card.
Right.
I am so inexplicably angry right now about this because I was so excited because I didn't have to drop $400 on this to get, because I wanted to get a Switch because it was on the go. I was like, this is a great on the go console, but I didn't want to drop that kind of money. But I was like, I could probably find a Vita really cheap because nobody likes them. Really? Only Sony manufactured memory cards made specifically for Vita.
Yeah, that was a big complaint. A big complaint. Fans had about it.
Right there is what did it. There were other issues, but I legitimately believe that's what did it for the Vita. But
those proprietary cards, man.
It
never really came down in price. It's very rare that you found one. I mean, some Black Fridays you could find one pretty cheap. But
well, it breaks my heart because it's to the point with the PlayStation Vita, because there's so many games on Vita I could get through the digital store. Like, I want to get a Vita soon because I want to go hog wild on the digital store and buy a bunch of games before they eventually disconnect the handheld from the PlayStation store. Because I feel that'll inevitably happen eventually, because like Sony gives zero fucks about the Vita anymore. And there's some games I want to experience. I want to experience the handheld Uncharted game by Sony Bend. I want to play the Killzone handheld game. I want to play Persona 4
all good
on
games.
all of these good games on the system. And plus I could play PlayStation 1 classics in a better way than the PlayStation Classic. And just, there's so many reasons I wanted to get a Vita, and it's disheartening that I'm like, well, it's going to cost me double what I originally wanted to invest to get one. And it just kind of sucks. Like, I don't know. I'm just angry about it because I had so much excitement built up for getting one. And then there was this small little hiccup, which I feel like a moron about because I literally write about video games. And I did not know about the major kill feature in a PlayStation Vita. Like, somebody should have slapped me. But
I mean, don't feel bad. Neither did Sony.
I don't know why they thought that would be a good idea.
Like, I'm sitting there, I'm like looking at like 128 gigabyte SD card for like $30. And I'm like, look at the Vita ones. They're like 16 for $100. I'm just like, really? Why?
Alden in chat is saying he can send you a 16 gig one, that he has some extras. Just saying.
Alden, you know my DMs are open and my nudes are always available. But no, I was really disheartened with the Vita. I miss playing on the go, especially now that I work. I like with my where I work now, I don't have access to Wi-Fi, so I just kind of sit there and go, okay, well, what am I going to do on my breaks? Be cool to be able to play a video game. But I digress. I really hope PlayStation gets into making a handheld, or xCloud is super amazing, because gaming on the go would be awesome. But yeah, so that's the Gaming Perspective podcast with a little tangent at the end. So thank you guys for tuning in. You guys have been awesome in the chat. As always, you guys can find us every Saturday night, starting roughly around 8 p.m. Eastern time. And we'll do outros before I do some announcements. Sam, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Samuel Talbert. You can find what I write on tickgamesnetwork.com.
And Eric, where can people find you?
When I'm not here on Saturday evenings, you can find me Wednesday night, 9 o'clock on Basement Radio Arcade. Can't talk tonight. Basement Radio Arcade Podcast with Enrique, B Money, Slow Mo, Backslap, and Gaming Forte.
Awesome. Yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in. I have an announcement that I was going to make this week, but it's going to be next week now.
Wow. You're announcing an announcement. Thank you.
Yes. Did you not know I was employed by Atlas? There's a Persona announcement coming. When is it? I'm not telling you. I'm just saying it's coming. I'm announcing that we're announcing it. There's going to be some big changes going forward on this channel specifically. There's going to be videos I'm going to start doing. First one drops Monday. It's being rendered right now on my computer. I'm branching out my content because I feel like with this channel, it's given me a really unique platform to speak from. And I like to promote more of a middle of the ground style of content, because instead of presenting side to sides, I want to provide you guys with the content that you guys come here for. And there's going to be branching out shows and things I do with this channel going forward. There are going to be projects that, if you choose to support them, I'm very appreciative of. And there's just things that are going to be changing. And we've done a little bit of things like the breakdown I do with Sam. I've had Jared on. I did a video with Eric in regards to Fallout 76. You're going to still get this content. You're going to see these guys more. You're going to hear from us more than just on Saturdays. And it's going to eventually become a content schedule that I will keep up with you guys, so you guys can get all your news on the go in audio format here. Or if you need articles, you can go to tickgamesnetwork.com. I've got a really big vision for the content on this channel. I appreciate everyone that takes the time to watch videos and subscribe. We're sitting at 125 subscribers. That's 125 people that regularly check out my content or even look at my stuff, and it's amazing. So in ending of this, I implore anyone that's listening to this, in the description, I'll also be making a tweet on the Gaming Perspective account. If anyone is familiar with Greg Miller, they're currently doing an up-and-comers segment on Kind of Funny Game Show, where content creators, whether they be writers, video creators, or anything along those lines, Greg Miller's going to invite them down. They're going to host Kind of Funny Games for 4 days, co-host with Greg, and then Greg's going to let them host with a media guest of their choice. It's a massive opportunity. So when I post this link, or I think it's in the description of this video, I want you to go in, I want you to click that link, and I want you to go vote for Mr. Samuel Tolbert that's on this podcast with me on a every week basis, and is one of the most consistent guys that I've had the pleasure of working with in the past year. Please, I cannot say how much I want you guys to go. If you're listening to this, recommend him, and even tweet at Greg, whatever the case may be. Get his name out there, because I just have nothing but positives to say, and I just want to, for the people that watch and listen to this, especially you guys that come out and check the video podcast out a couple days after, just do this. Mean a lot to everybody on this podcast and everything else that way. So that's the show for tonight. We will catch you guys next Saturday night. Jared will be returning next week, and we will have a special guest next week as well. So I want to thank you guys for tuning into the Gaming Perspective Podcast, episode 33. We'll see you guys next week on episode 34.